Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob, Cesternino, and we're on the edge of our seat for a Traitors cliffhanger tonight. We'll talk about what we think may happen when the Traitors comes back 1 week for tonight for the Traitors season 3 finale. And here I am back with a guy who, known faithful, Mr. Traitors. It's Pooya Zamkili. Pooya, how are you?
I am good, Rob. Little fuming at the end of this episode, but listen, that just means there's a little more juice for the finale, and who can complain about that?
We'll see. We'll see if there actually is juice for the finale, because I have some thoughts on how come we got the cliffhanger here in this spot, and we'll talk about all that. And maybe if we talk to Tom Sandoval this week, you know where to find it. We know Traitors.com. We spoke with Carolyn this past week, and we're working on trying to get some more time with Carolyn soon. You could hear that in the podcast feed. And of course, 1 week from tonight, as I mentioned, we'll be back with our Traitors season 3 finale and hopefully some more interviews with the cast after that. But Pooya, it was a night that really we were building, and I have a lot of questions for you about how things are going to play out. But ultimately, we didn't get a lot resolved tonight other than the murder of Tom Sandoval.
Yeah, which I was not anticipating. As I've said, I've seen this twist play out in other seasons. And in those seasons, Rob, the episode ended with the seer and the CE meeting without seeing the results of that conversation. So here, I didn't anticipate it to be done this way. I will say the one thing I'm happy to get, we got this question a lot this season. Put it to rest. We now know what happens in the event of a tie. We have definitive, leaving it to chance for the tie.
All right. Well, we end this episode on potentially Brittany is going to reveal her vote for Danielle. We'll speculate what Brittany potentially did, but can you walk us through the tiebreaker math on this? Like Alan said that it's going to come down to chance. Is it a coin flip? How do they decide the tiebreaker? Have you seen this before on international editions of Traitors?
Let me tell you, outside of like the little medallion coins that they collect for the missions, I've never seen a coin toss happen on the Traitors. But that being said, I have to assume that's what it is, right? Like either that or they're going to roll out a wheel. They're like, all right, you're this half, you're this half. I don't know.
But what have they done on other seasons? Have we gotten a tie?
Not a tie that's been unresolved. I'll tell you that.
So somebody always flips.
The only time I can picture a tie, and obviously there's going to be people with better memories than me who can correct me on this. The one instance of a tie that I specifically remember, it was earlier in the season. It was one of those situations where there's like, 15 people voting, and it was like a 4 to 4 to 3 to 2, whatever. And then that tie got resolved quickly because the people that were not voting for those people just switch up their votes or whatever. So, but in this instance, this tight, this late, I don't recall a time that I've seen this play out.
Okay. All right. Let's get to the question of the night, Pooya. Did Brittany flip her vote and vote against Danielle?
Okay. So this is fascinating to me because the show very clearly highlighted two things with Brittany, right? One was Brittany in confessional talking about this look she saw from Dolores that pointed to Danielle and a nod that indicated that Dolores was going to vote Danielle. So immediately that flags up. The second thing is her mouth was left wide open when Dolores voted for Ivar again. So those two things should point us that Brittany voted out Danielle here, right?
Okay.
She looks shocked. But then the other side of me is also, if I'm exploring both timelines here, because we are cliffhangered, is that she's shocked that, oh my God, Danielle has a chance because I also voted Danielle. I didn't expect this to happen. Because I feel like the other thing, Rob, and you can also, I want to know what your thought is. The episode went out of its way to show us Brittany in multiple situations talking about how she can't write down Danielle's name, how that's impossible. Do you reckon that that was them doing that only for her to vote Danielle, or was that them also hinting at, well, she's not going to do it?
I feel like, and I think that those are both really great questions that I'd love to explore. I think that Brittany is about to vote out Danielle. I think that is about that. And I think that there's a couple of different reasons why I think that, but I think that the reasons why I think that have more to do with the cliffhanger being where it is, more so than that anything that Brittany told us. I think that maybe Brittany felt like, okay, if I don't vote out Danielle in this spot, I'm about to go down with the ship. And I think that this was a self-preservation move from Brittany. And I think that she probably, needed to realize, and again, I may be very wrong about this. I think that she needed to vote Ivar in this spot because I think that it's an all-in move here. And I think to fold and to not write down Danielle's name at this particular juncture, I don't think necessarily takes off the sus about her. She came so far down the road with Danielle. If there's another traitor out there, I still think people are going to look at her. And I think that the move would have been to stick with Danielle and go to rocks, as we say on Survivor. On Big Brother, you don't go to rocks.
Right.
On Survivor, we go to rocks if it's necessary. And it's better to go to rocks than to be down in the numbers.
I think so. I think especially once she's already voted Ivar once, that bridge is burned. Just do it again. Leave it up to chance. Because on the chance that Ivar goes, that opens the game wide open for you. There's every bit of chance that Dolores
They probably win. They probably win if Ivar goes out here.
Right, because there's a chance that Dolores switches up on him, sure. But it's still a chance. And you still have, you have a great chance. You just have to survive one more banishment and it's donezo. You win. You win the game. So I think you have to roll the dice with Ivar. I think the other side of it is the worry of, well, if the coin flip happens, Danielle does go, I go next. But I think that the reality is you're still probably going to go next now for having voted Ivar. So, because they're going to get this is the last confirmation, Rob. And once Danielle is confirmed traitor, they're not going to, I don't think they're going to care about the fact that, well, I couldn't write her name because you understand, our last season. I think they're going to be like, well, you still didn't vote out a traitor and we did. So let's look at you now.
Yep. And I think that maybe we could be headed towards a little bit if Danielle goes out here and then Brittany is going to be the first person banished. Potentially, we could be looking at a four-way pot split with Ivar, Dolores, Gabby, and Dylan.
No shot. I think they still vote again at that point. Because the next banishment, they will not get a reveal. So they won't know that Brittany was a traitor. They could, and I think the fact that they keep showing us Dylan talking about how he's sus on Gabby means that I feel like I hate to crush dreams and I would love to be wrong. But if there's a faithful win, I do not think both Dylan and Gabby get the money. So.
Yeah. Okay. And also why I feel this way, why I feel like that Brittany is about to write down Danielle's name, that Danielle had the seer power. You speculated, okay, well, probably this episode is going to end with somebody winning the seer power, and that is going to, and again, we don't know who has the seer power, but I suspect that Danielle also has the seer power. So Danielle, now banished, revealed traitor, also had the seer power. I feel like that maybe we might not have a jam-packed finale, and that's why we get this cliffhanger here to have at least one shocking moment left here in the finale to see Danielle get banished.
So it does, based on the numbers we had going into the third round of the mission, Danielle seemed to be in the best spot. But in the event that Danielle does go, whoever was second will get the seer power. So it's just, yeah. So that's why they're not revealing it here, because
and it might be just like a real dud also, because then it's like, all right, I'm going to investigate Brittany.
Then it's bad. Then it's Curtains McGee. Absolutely.
So I'm a little worried we're headed into maybe Brittany flipped, votes out Danielle, Danielle goes home, revealed traitor, and kind of a ho-hum finale. Now, we get a reunion show too, but it might just be not that much excitement in the actual finale of The Traitors season 3.
I think there's a little, I agree with you that it could just be foregone at that point, right? Give the faithful the money, it's done so. But I am a little bit intrigued by some of these dynamics amongst the faithful, Rob, in that Dolores is now on Ivar. Is Ivar going to forgive this? Is he then going to look at Dolores after this? Potentially, who knows? I think that the Gabby Dylan thing is very intriguing to me because they keep playing hot and cold with each other, where they're working together, they're listening to each other. Then Dylan says, I don't know if I trust Gabby. Then Gabby comes with more evidence. And it's like, okay, I trust her again. So with Gabby having given so much information, with Gabby having pounded the drums of traitor on traitor the last round, could he look at this as traitor on traitor with Danielle and then choose to then go after Gabby next? It's possible. Like, I don't think all routes are done for Brittany, but I do think if Danielle leaves and Brittany doesn't get the seer, I would be a little worried for her. But I'm also intrigued. We can talk about it when we talk about the mission on some of the thoughts people gave on what they would do with the seer power.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the episode and we could talk through more of this stuff where Brittany meets Danielle and, Danielle is there and says like, hey, you got to join me as a traitor or are you going home tonight? You're my person. And Brittany says, of course, I accept. Okay. Brittany did say that, boy, this is a little obvious though.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people criticize this move by Danielle to bring in Brittany because of how obvious it is and because Brittany would never vote against her anyway. I think the way I see it, and obviously whenever we get the chance to talk to Danielle, hopefully we'll get some clarity on this. But the way I see it for Danielle, it's a reality of I'm probably not going to make it there. Let me bring someone in that I fully trust, I can bounce ideas off of. And then in the event I go, it's someone I would like to see win in my stead.
I think that for Danielle, I think that there was maybe a path to the end of the game. And look, Danielle, it's very possible that Danielle could get, I feel like it's maybe a 25% chance. It's like a 50-50 of like, what did Brittany do? And then a 50-50 of the coin. So maybe there's a 25% chance that Danielle is going to be able to survive this. And then she goes on to win and that'll be really fun to watch. But in this instance, like it's the narrowest of margins that she needed to get through here. I wonder if the path for her would have been easier had she recruited Gabby instead of Brittany. Talk it through with me. Talk it through. Okay, she recruits Gabby.
Okay, so she recruits Gabby. Two timelines will occur, right? Either Gabby is like, all right, I'm working with Danielle now. This is the bet I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Or immediately there's like a little bit of an awkward interaction. And does Danielle want to ride it out with Gabby? Or is this a let's feed the traitors one? Let me push Gabby. Because the problem is we kind of saw this narrative play out where it's Gabby versus Danielle. And I think it was very clear that there was way more evidence on Danielle than there was Gabby. So it would have been a tough one. But if Gabby then chooses to work with her, Rob, I think, yes, it would have been a slam dunk because then Gabby, Danielle, Brittany, Dolores all vote together and they boot out one of the boys and then they're in a good
it's
spot.
a little unfair for me to be able to throw this out here with like hindsight is 2020, but Danielle already had Brittany. Brittany was her one person and she had Dolores and she needed she's going to kill somebody. She needs a fourth person. So basically, if she was to bring in even Dylan, to recruit Dylan as a traitor instead of Brittany, she had Dolores, she had Brittany. She needs a fourth person in this vote. And this is, something that Sandra talked about in season 2. You just need, this is like Survivor, 6-person tribe, new era Survivor that we've seen it so many times. First person to 4 has it. Danielle only got to 3, and I think she thought she had Dylan without this, and Dylan and Gabby was so persuasive. So I really think that either recruiting Dylan or recruiting Gabby, just one of those two people on her side. Also, she had Dolores on lock, she had Brittany on lock. I feel like that gives her the little edge that she needed here. She only has 3 in this vote. She needed a 4th.
That would make sense if not for the idea that whoever else she recruited wouldn't have just chucked her out anyway. Because they're like, well, she's out. I'm not the traitor. I'll win the game. Because I do think there's a world that happens, Rob. I do. I mean,
that's
Danielle,
not
I think
Dylan's game. He's like, yeah, he'll come in the turn like, let's freaking go. Come on. Like, I don't think Gabby's so cutthroat like that.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that I feel like for Danielle,
this isn't like Claire on Traitors RHAP.
No, but that being said, if the writing's on the wall for somebody that's coming in and you're like, oh, I might not even have to do anything and they go, it's fine. Because what are you going to break your neck to keep them in? It's a little tough. Like Dylan said at the start of this episode, this is where it all becomes strategic now. Like you got to move strategically more than anything because we're about to lose all the obvious, we're about to lose the reveals. We're at the end game. And I think he recognized that. So in a world where the round starts and he's a traitor and Gabby's like, I think it's Danielle. And Ivar's like, I think it's Danielle. I think at that point, his mind should be turning of like, maybe I do have the votes on Danielle. Now, granted, Rob, can we talk about Dolores real quick? Because I am out on Dolores as a trusted ally. I agree that Danielle has her, but Dolores has a mind of her own. She went with Ivar, and those two had no choice but to pivot. The whole
that
argument
was
at the round
clutch,
table,
though, that they like if they just went off of what we heard, that was really clutch that they both switched up their vote to Ivar. That was like really incredible.
I mean, it kept them in the game, but it made the mission way harder in that now we're about to try and sell it that it's Ivar. And I also think this is why Brittany should keep her vote there, because this is something we see in other games too, like Among Us or a Mafia, where the Mafia just latched on to this random vote to stay in. This is highly suspect. We cannot trust this. We should take out this side. And I think
there's no coming back for Brittany. She needs to have kept her vote on Ivar.
And if there is, if she did vote out Danielle and she wins the game, I would love to, again, I love nothing more than be proven wrong, Rob. I really don't. So I would love to see that.
It would be incredible. I think that is very unlikely.
Especially with the seer, it's very tough. Unless she gets the seer and then sees a faithful and they buy that they're both faithful, then maybe there's some staying power there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Okay. So just to go back to Danielle and Brittany,
yes,
I really feel like that Danielle's thought process here on bringing in Brittany was that, okay, well, I could bring in somebody else to be a traitor, but I'm still going to have to, I could even go to the end with Brittany, but at some point, like I have to screw Brittany over to win this game. And I think that for Danielle, she just did not want to do that. So that's why Brittany ends up coming in as the traitor. I think it was going to be harder and there was a path, but I think it becomes increasingly more difficult. Like she really needed that Dylan vote here on this round. And she doesn't realize that Dylan is somebody who is able to be flipped by Gabby. And I think that Danielle did not do a great job. I think that both Danielle and Carolyn both made the same mistakes with Dylan.
Yes. I said this last week, Rob. If they don't murder Dylan, I don't see how they're winning. And lo and behold, Dylan's still there. Tom Sandoval being murdered is wild to me at this spot. I think it should have been Dylan, but credit to Dylan's social game. He's made it so well in the game to the point where all the traitors that he's been aligned with are like, no, I have him. I can trust him. I can work with him. And it is a sight to behold. And so much so that I feel like he's kept himself in the game. Like I'm truly, if a faithful's winning, I am rooting for the Dylan Gabby side. Because especially for Dylan, the fact that he's been aligned with these traitors and has been able to stay in, this is a good thing for us in the future. Because I have advocated for, if you're really close with a faithful and you're marinating them, dump them close to the end game. Because this very thing can happen to you. And you have no control over it at that point.
Yeah, well, I'd love to talk through a little bit with the Dylan stuff because I really feel like where we saw the mistakes that Carolyn made with him, where Carolyn was almost trying to guilt trip Dylan last week. And we saw he reacted negatively to that. And in his confrontations with Danielle, I feel like that she also tried to play the guilt card on Dylan. And I think that Dylan can be persuaded, but every single person, there's a combination you can punch in to change their mind on things. And it's up to you as a player on one of these games to figure out like, oh, okay, this is actually the combination for this. And we saw that both Danielle and Carolyn tried a very similar approach with him. And you're not going to guilt Dylan into coming over to your side. And I feel like that he's somebody that maybe an evidence-based approach, a more logic-based approach seems to be what works with him. But Danielle just tried to do the emotional blackmail to him. Not even emotional blackmail, but just like try to like Dylan, I'm so hurt that you would say this. How could you,
Yes.
Dylan? And that for the second week in a row did not work to get him to be persuaded.
Yeah, I think Dylan has very much mapped out the type of mind he has, which is he even said it at the top of breakfast to Danielle that, now it's where it gets strategic. He is an evidence-based person. And I think that especially when you've seen someone use the emotional card on them and it didn't work, don't ever assume it's going to work for you. Like you're the one that is immune to that, because I think Dylan very much showed how he operates. He looks for evidence. Whether it's wrong or not is irrelevant, because he's looking for evidence to pin on somebody and to like investigate. And emotional pleas are not going to help this late in the game. Like it's going to make him feel worse maybe about what he's doing, but I think it's almost going to guarantee, like reassure him that like, okay, I'm on to something. I'm getting them. This is why they're playing this on me. So I should just follow my gut on this one.
Let's go back to the murder decision that it was Tom Sandoval. And we hear a couple of different names get talked about. Danielle says Ivar is smart and he is suspicious of Danielle. But Brittany says, hey, just so you know, Tom and Gabby are on to you. And they also talk about how, look, the thing about Tom is that he might get banished if we keep him in. So I was very surprised that Tom ends up being the decision that they made.
I agree. I think we've talked about this all season, that Tom is the one man remaining that could be a candidate for banishment because of the fact that they've cleared all the men out. He's the one person that maybe you could get the ball rolling on. And I think especially if you remove one of the other men in an Ivar or a Dylan, that is a little more possible, in my opinion. It would still be a bit of a tough one, but we always knew Dolores was going to go that way. And Tom would have voted Dolores again. Now, granted, he's been looking at Danielle.
That's on the table. Also, the classic Suri Fields Traitors Hall of Famer 3-2-1 potentially is in play if you leave Tom in the game. And then Dolores and Danielle and Brittany vote for Tom. And then Gabby and Dylan, even if they vote for Danielle, Tom's going to vote for Dolores.
And that's the thing, right? Even if Tom is quote unquote on to Danielle, let's say there's a world where he just had a chance to vote out Danielle and chose to vote Dolores, which means that he is looking at Dolores. So if you go into the roundtable and Dolores immediately mounts an attack on Tom verbally, I don't think Tom goes anywhere but Dolores, which could open the door for a 3-2-1, but and the 3 being on Tom, because like again, if he's burning on Dolores, I don't think you're gonna get, let's say Dylan's still there and Gabby's still there. They're not gonna vote for Dolores there. They're still gonna probably look at Danielle in that situation, which would have been perfect. That's why I genuinely did not expect Tom to go. I thought Dylan's the move, but I don't see her doing it. So they'll go with Ivar. I really thought Ivar was the one to go. It makes sense Gabby didn't go because they were still under the whole like, oh, 2 women. So pinning it on Gabby made sense. And I think Dylan verbalizing that he was looking at Gabby was another thing of like, that's our vote. That's the vote we need. So yeah, unfortunate, because I do see there were a lot of outs for them here that did not begin with murder Tom Sandoval.
All right, well, let's go to breakfast. And we see Danielle. She's feeling good. She's still riding high. Carolyn went home the night before. Dylan comes in. She says, hey, Dylan, you're my person. Feels like, okay, the relationship is pretty strong to start here of the day.
Yes, but this is, I think, the beginning of where it was a over marination, over complimenting Dylan. I think you started very soon on it.
Yep. And then Brittany and Dolores come in. Brittany's feeling good. First day as a traitor. Gabby comes in. Now, Pooya, what do you think about Gabby's outfit today?
I thought it was cool. I liked it.
Okay. Here's where potentially we're a little worried for Gabby here, because if in the event they get Danielle Reyes out of the game, I'm a little worried for Gabby. We might have a wardrobe malfunction. If a celebration happens, arms in the air, it's giving Mardi Gras.
Well, I think we'll be safe. I think we'll be safe. I have a feeling this will be...
She's going to have to be like very like composed, like golf clap if she gets her way. She's going to need to have the presence of mind.
Rob, by the way, put this outfit in the folder for Traitors RHAP 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Will do.
It's happening. Lock it in.
Will do. Okay. All right. But Gabby says, I think it's Danielle. She's telling us in confessional. She thinks it could be Danielle. So Ivar is here and Tom Sandoval is murdered.
Yes. What was your favorite line from Tom in his final confessional?
I like that he said he didn't realize he was going to be so good at this.
That's a good one. The other one I wrote down was, I was a pleasure to work with. Self-diagnosed.
Yes. All right. Well, Alan comes in and tells us, for once, Tom Sandoval was actually a faithful.
Zing!
Zing. He zinged him.
Got him.
Okay. All right. We get set up. We're going to be doing some sort of Déjà Vu challenge, and also the seer power is going to be in play. All right. Danielle and Brittany go to work. Danielle is trying to gather information, but she knows that Gabby is on to her.
Yeah, which, getting the hint that someone's coming at you when you're going at them is great, but it's great time to get some fact finding, evidence finding to put into the locker. Now, the number one concern, or the number one critique we've seen of Danielle's game to a lot of people who are not fans of Danielle, is that there's so much evidence. Why are they not using it? Well, luckily for everyone, Gabby has been collecting and is ready to bring receipts out, similar to what Danielle did with Carolyn. The problem is, where are the receipts for Gabby? The only thing that's there is, well, you kind of were closed off with your Bambis, and that was it.
Talk to the Bambis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much else?
We don't have a lot to prosecute Gabby on. Dolores, though, Danielle has her unlock, although she does end up not voting the way that Danielle wants her to. She's very loyal to Danielle. She says she really trusts her. She wants to go to the end with Danielle.
Yes, but Rob, if Bob the Queen said it, then that's what we're doing. Yeah. I genuinely did not expect the hard pivot from Tom to Ivar for Dolores. Dolores has said, I'm not voting a woman out here. That's not happening. And, I respect it. I respect it, because I feel like everyone has seen the pattern of the men being obvious. Not to Dolores, though. She's like, nah, it's one of you two.
Okay. Ivar and Dylan are talking that Ivar does feel suspicious about Danielle, but Dylan still feels like that it could be Gabby. And Ivar says maybe he might go for Gabby. So, okay, it's looking decent for Danielle and Brittany here. But Gabby talks to Brittany, and she thinks that Gabby tells Brittany there could be two traitors. It could be Dolores and Danielle.
Yep, Dolores and Danielle being the two, which obviously if Danielle does go here, Rob, I think this is a setup of Dolores could go next. Like, we could see Dolores actually somehow get pushed out. And, Brittany is privy to this. She can push that agenda as well. Rob, another critique I have of keeping these faithfuls here, the ones that are here, is that by keeping Dylan and Ivar, you've kept in two faithfuls who have very vocally said, yeah, I have two options I could go with. I'm going to listen to what happens at the roundtable and decide which way I'm going. Which you don't want two people like that, because that means it doesn't matter if they understand the value of an alliance or numbers. They're not going that way if they think you're guilty. And the roundtable being what it has been this season, with so much evidence being presented, knowing you're going against Gabby, who you don't have a lot of evidence against, this is a bad choice keeping two of them here.
Pooya, as the Traitors expert, would you say is the move here, like, do you not even want to get a traitor out of the game? Do you just want to get, like, who's somebody that I don't trust in the end game? And let me just, like, okay, I have this one traitor that I think is, that I'm pretty sure about. I just need to get to the end with that person.
As a faithful, right?
As a faithful.
Yeah. Okay, so I think as a faithful, at final 6, you're trying to set up a 3, right? If you have a 3, then you can win the game no matter what, as long as you have a 3 that rocks with you. So that if you think there's only one faithful and you have the trust of that faithful, good enough. You just need to make sure that your third is then a faithful that will listen to you and trust you. And I think, for example, for Dylan, he has Ivar. He feels good about, if I keep Ivar in, Ivar's not going against me. He thinks we're both super clear, good enough for me, and I don't think Ivar's a traitor. So that works. And that way he can stomach having a Danielle stay in potentially if he believes there's only one traitor. But because he thinks there could be more, my question becomes, well, do you not know who the other one is? But again, at the end game, Rob, as a faithful, the lowest amount of faithfuls that can split the pot is 2. So really, having 1 is good enough. We see him mentioned for the seer. Actually, let's put a peg in it until then, and then we'll talk a little. We'll open this question again because I do like this question a lot.
Okay. All right. Danielle and Gabby, I thought this was so interesting where that they're just sitting there silently. And I actually really love this for Danielle, where, okay, Gabby is sitting there with her tea, and she's like, well, I'm not succumbing to the awkward silence. And Danielle, I thought, borrowed a move from her nemesis, Boston Rob. This was, to me, like buddy system on steroids. And I do wonder, like I was thinking, like, well, this is brilliant on the part of Danielle. If Danielle shadows Gabby all day, Gabby can't prosecute the case against Danielle.
She can't push the agenda.
And it's
out.
like, hey, I'll sit here all day in silence and babysit Gabby. Brittany, you go whip the votes.
Not a bad strategy at all. Having someone you implicitly trust lends you that opportunity.
And with Boston Rob, I mean, it did not work out in Survivor Winners at War, but when he was trying to, I forget if he was trying to get out, who he was trying to get voted out. If it was
it Sophie?
Adam, or was it Sophie or Adam? But he was basically like, hey, everybody stay here for the whole day. And basically just tried to keep everybody in one small area. He didn't want anybody. He felt like that he had the votes locked in, and I'm just going to sit on these people until we go to tribal council. And it did not work.
No, it didn't work there. But here, I think it could work given the fact that having just one, having a traitor that you drive and a player you trust in Brittany does allow Danielle to keep Gabby from putting out things there, especially in her view. Gabby's the one person who's definitely going after her and going to put her name out there. She still thinks Dylan is safe and Dylan's on side. So staying with Gabby prevents Gabby from spreading the conversation. If anything, also, it does allow Danielle to waffle a little bit around him and be like, so I've been sitting with Gabby all day and I'm getting a weird energy. Like if she wanted to, that was there, which I don't think we saw her use anything like that. But I was intrigued at the move. It felt a little awkward, but also, if these two ain't going to the end together, who cares if it's awkward?
Like for Gabby, I'm like, well, Gabby, what are you getting out of this? like, I'm not giving in. I'm not. She's not talking to me. I'm not talking to her. It's like, okay, well, like maybe Gabby's like, great. Well, I'm going to sit on Danielle here, but Danielle actually has another traitor that could be out doing stuff. Like it's not like that. That Dylan Efron was out like making the case against Danielle while Gabby was sitting there in silence.
Yeah, and I mean, what's funny is then the argument could be made that Gabby has people advocating for her cause, which is Danielle, but those people are Ivar. And I feel like you might not necessarily have a trust in Ivar there, but unbeknownst to Danielle, Dylan might be looking in that direction too. But at this point, no, right? At this point, it looked like the mission is what starts turning his gears over to Danielle again.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the mission. It's a Déjà vu challenge. We bring back the clowns who come in, and the person that collects the most money over the course of the mission, that's the person that's going to get the seer power. I think we can yada yada a lot of the mission in terms of certainly the balloon popping.
Really? You didn't mess with the clowns?
It's fine.
And the balloons?
It was fine. That's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the reality was these were kind of like deja vu in that they were bringing back elements of past missions, but they were kind of like mini games in a bigger game.
Yeah. And bring back some of like the lesser challenges of the season to boot. Maybe the worst one, which was the balloon pop door challenge with the clown. So they brought them back, and Brittany and Dolores are the only two people that get $1,000 here. Gabby and Dylan end up walking away with nothing. Part 2 was that we get our creepy dolls, the ones that used to sing backwards lullabies and nursery rhymes for Tom Sandoval. Now you pick up the doll and it's like a little bit of a slot machine.
Yeah. You pull
$1,200.
1,200. You pull again. You get 1,400. It goes up in increments of 200.
Yeah. And then
I don't care for this challenge, this part, Rob, because I feel like it's so arbitrary who's has what stop point. Like Danielle pulls it 5 times and gets $2,000 out of this.
Yes. The only thing I did like here was that the little doll is like, too greedy, you're out. But when Danielle goes from $1,800 to $2,000, when it starts with $2,000, like, oh, that was the only part I liked here.
Yeah. So do I have a running tally? So going into the last round, Rob, Dylan has 0, Gabby has 0, and Danielle and Brittany, I think, have the most money alongside Dolores. So their side does have the advantage going into the last one, which is each coin is 100 value, and you have to basically fill your bank up.
Yeah, so Brittany, I guess, has 2,400 going into that, and Danielle ends up with 2,500.
Right. I don't remember what Ivar had.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. Ivar, he gets too greedy.
Oh yeah, he got too greedy. Yeah, so he has what, 500 from the first mission. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if he's necessarily in it.
The conversion's impossible, Rob, because like Dylan would have to get 20 more coins than everybody else to just try and catch up.
Was it $100 per coin? Was that what it was?
I believe so.
Yeah. I thought this last one, with all due respect, was also kind of dumb in that, okay, we had the cage boys going back to the beginning of the season, and you had to put the coins in to lower the cage, but they made it seem like, okay, you need to load up your cage and then put the coins in there. How much did the coins weigh? Like, it was like, and then make sure you lift up your cage at the end. Like, it wasn't like each coin weighed 50 pounds. So you're going to have to and then hold it for a minute. And if you can't hold it up, it was like, what was the point of even having it be where you had to lift the cage off the ground? Were you going to run out of time before you picked up the cage?
That's the thing, Rob. I don't disagree with you. It is funny to me that of the 3 challenges or missions, the one that gave you the most money was the one that was the most random. Right. With the dolls.
Too greedy. Yeah. Okay. Also, what was in these bags that were filled with like rancid poop-like material?
Yeah, it didn't look like, when they said it was like poop, it didn't look feces-ish. But
that find the coins in the dirty diapers.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I don't need any coins. I don't need to see.
Now, one exploded in Dylan's face.
Ew.
And Alan said,
what did he say?
Oh, I hate that.
Well, what's funny about this, Rob, is I saw right before we started recording this, I did see an article that Dylan Efron has said showering is overrated.
Yes.
And all I can think is, Dylan, shower. You should shower after this one.
Yeah. Okay. They did seem like they showered after this.
They have to, right? They have. You can't pull up to the round table all stinky. Like, that's not going to help your case.
Yeah, I think it's a good question in terms of the traitors, in terms of what they do. They go in these missions and they get all dirty. It's like, do they have like a portable shower, or do they just like completely, like, these cars need to be detailed after every single challenge?
They got to get like hosed down or something.
Because it looks like they're not like sitting on like okay, let's just
plastic.
cover the car in paper. But they're filthy after these missions.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know who was, maybe a distant relative or something. I remember as a kid, getting into someone's car, and they still had like the wrapping on the chairs. And I was like, I hate this. This feels so uncomfortable.
I would like it. Because I want to keep it pristine for as long as possible.
But what's the point? What's the point of keeping it in mint condition if you're never going to feel it, Rob?
I could one day take it off. Yeah. I would have plastic on all of my furniture.
Ew, Rob.
I would.
You like that sound? Like you're sitting on
I'm
plastic?
not a big sweater either. So it would be fine for me. And you know, my family trashes everything. You know, and then I gotta pay for new things. Like if they had to pay for it, they would put plastic on it too.
How badly is it getting trashed? Like it needs to be replaced in a year? God, 5 years on it.
We've been through a few couches at this house.
Oh wow.
Not at this house, but over the year. I digress. But Pooya, so we're gonna bring everybody back. Now, Dylan did notice, boy, Danielle really wanted that seer power.
Yeah,
Too greedy.
Too greedy. You lose. I think that, I mean, I've talked about this, but going for the seer, I think, is a mistake. I think especially if you look like you're sweating it more than most, it's not great. I think Danielle had the perfect, like, easy ride, right? You've got 2,500 collected. Everyone else is at least 10 to 20 coins behind you. You can be breezy in this last bit, you know, because you're not going to look like a tryhard when you pulled the lever 5 times, because everyone else tried to do that as well. You're fine there, but don't hustle and bustle for these coins that much. Because again, if all the value of the coins are equal, it ain't that deep. Just collect 5 and you're probably the good enough buffer for you. Because otherwise, this is what happens when Dylan's looking at it and thinking, wow, the only reason you want to have the seer power is either to hide your identity or to confirm somebody. And I don't know, is it worth confirming somebody to that point?
Okay. Back at the manor, we've got Gabby is going to talk to Dylan. And she brings back a lot of evidence against Danielle. She tells him about, like, that was that night I was in the cell. And I feel like that Dylan in the real time, like the next morning at breakfast, wasn't he the one that was like, oh no, I was in there with Danielle?
Yes, he's the one that debunked it, accidentally or not. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, not so much this time. Gabby feels very strongly it was traitor on traitor.
She does bring up the, you know, the Bob and Rob of it all, how that was traitor on traitor. She also brings up, I think this was a great point in the smoking gun to the evidence here, that the Carolyn rumor stemmed from Danielle. And that does back her case that it's this traitor on traitor, because again, no one was looking at Carolyn that early as well, especially.
Yep. Okay. So he's going to hear her out, although even though he's suspicious of Gabby. And so here comes Danielle, and she walks in like, all right, what's the play? And he's like, well, this is my worst nightmare.
Classic Dylan.
Yeah. And Danielle tells him, oh my God, Dylan. She doesn't know what to say. She's like, I am so hurt.
I would have rather kept it. I don't know what to say. I think I'm so hurt didn't help.
Yeah. I do feel like that she needed to have a case here against Gabby. And we know that, you know, Danielle can do this. We saw her do such a great job prosecuting the case against Carolyn last week. But it does feel like she's coming into the roundtable to prosecute Gabby, and she is very light on evidence.
Yes, I think if we were to help build the case, right, if we were going to give her evidence to work with, I think number one is, I said it at the round table, I was terrified of bringing up her name because I didn't want to get murdered, so I let it go. But Gabby and her have been working in lockstep the whole way. She voted me, even though it's not me. And when it's clear it's Carolyn, you saw what happened last night, Dylan.
That's
you saw Carolyn. Yeah.
I think that maybe Danielle might have been counting on Brittany a little bit more to prosecute the case against Gabby, because it's even Brittany that opens the roundtable and she comes in, and Brittany, you know, has rarely spoken up and very outspoken at the roundtable. And so it was unusual for her to start things off. And she asked Gabby, like, why did you just keep to your numbers in the group? But then that's really the extent of Brittany really trying to make the case against Gabby.
Yeah, it's a tough sell for Brittany to open up. And again, Brittany's one piece is, you know, Gabby, when the game started, I feel like everyone was getting to know each other, and you kind of kept to your group, which felt a little bit weird. But I don't think that's a good enough thing to start up the conversation with.
And just from Brittany's personality, like, I think that Brittany is a great counterpuncher. Like, I feel like that had they kept Tom Sandoval around and they were going to try to get Tom Sandoval banished, and like if Tom Sandoval is like verbally sparring with Brittany, like I think she's going to best him there. Like, I think she's going to make him look like a dummy, but I think that she likes Gabby. I think that was a tough spot for Brittany to try to take the lead and then get Gabby banished.
I agree. I think having Tom there would have been perfect because he's going to start spewing out some stuff. He's not going to back it eloquently with enough evidence probably. He could set off Dolores. Dolores could set him off. I think that would have been the perfect foil, enough loud volume for you to hide behind. Whereas here, there's nowhere to hide.
Everybody's
there
pretty
really
nice.
Isn't.
Everybody's pretty civil. You need like some fireworks here, some chaos to hide behind.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Danielle, she's so hurt. She's really trying to lay the guilt trip on pretty thick with Dylan. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, I didn't make up my mind yet, but I just had to tell you this was coming up.
Yeah, give the heads up there. And I think once he says that, I feel like he's now going to sit with what just happened. And I think that's when he starts pivoting away from voting Gabby to maybe voting Danielle.
Yeah.
Because like Dylan said, he needs to make it to the end with a winning chance. And that he knows the window is going to get smaller with Danielle, especially when Danielle has people that will not vote against her. So.
All right. Brittany is going to start making the rounds. She goes to Dolores, and Dolores says, well, I'll either vote for Gabby or Ivar, but I haven't heard Gabby's case.
This is what you don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Again, too many undecided votes going into the roundtable, which is good for the faithful, horrible for the traitors. Horrible. This mindset will prevent alliances from working. And we've seen, last season, how having numbers and playing it like a numbers game can be effective for the results of the roundtable. But when you have too many people like this who are like, let's hear them out first, it brings so much uncertainty to the roundtable that you just don't know how it's going to shake.
Okay. Brittany can't find Ivar either. She's like
great running
around the mansion trying to find Ivar. Finally, we find him, but he's dead set on Danielle.
And this is where we see Brittany kind of well up a little bit to Ivar. Says, listen, I cannot vote for her. You have no idea. I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And Ivar's like, it's just a game. Don't worry about it. Just game, bro.
Yep. So Brittany talks with Ivar. She says, I can't write Danielle's name down. And Ivar says, well, it's going to get messy. Brittany is such a fun reality TV character. I feel like in this episode, I feel like she doesn't do a great job.
Tell me more.
I just feel like that. I think that Danielle, for this plan to work, I think this hinges more on Brittany than Danielle. And again, Danielle has put Brittany in a not so great position, but Brittany doesn't execute in the position. For this to have worked, I think it was more on Brittany. I think Danielle needed to make the case against Gabby better to Dylan. But I think that really Brittany doesn't come through really in any meaningful way for Danielle in this episode.
Well, the problem with putting Brittany in that spot is that Brittany's been playing the more quiet and content faithful game, which means that she's not really lending her voice that vocally. She's chiming in every now and then, but she's not leading the pack. And now the hard pivot would be bad for Brittany's game overall. If this vote doesn't go through, right? Because if it goes through, she has numbers, she's fine. But if it doesn't, it's bad.
Brittany doesn't end up having any sway with Dolores. She doesn't have any sway with Dylan. She doesn't have any sway with Gabby. She doesn't have any sway with Ivar. So she strikes out with the other four people that she really needs to get. Like, though Danielle is, her loyalty to, or Dolores' loyalty to Danielle keeps Dolores from voting for one of them. But they needed to pick off another person. One of those three.
Yeah, I feel like the Brittany's are like, we don't hear everything that they say.
And I'm sorry that sounds mean about Brittany. It's a
tough spot. It's a tough spot to play
it's
from.
Just we're trying to break down what happened in the game, and and again, maybe this is all going to work out as a Danielle and Brittany win. And I would be thrilled with that. I really would. But it feels like we're headed towards that we are telling the story of how this didn't work out for them.
Well, I think that some of the things,
at least to me.
Some of the same critiques you've given, let's look at the double-edged sword of it all, or the silver lining. And for example, crying to Ivar that I can't vote for her.
That might
just
help her if
Yes.
Danielle goes home.
Because they'd be like, oh my God, like I can see I saw you struggle with it. I get it. Because at the end of the day, the days of we're looking at Brittany and Danielle are gone. They're not really, they're like looking at them as a unit voting together, but not a lot is being said about Brittany being a traitor. We've seen Gabby go to Dolores before she goes to Brittany, which is great. So the question becomes, can she pivot from there? I think there's a chance she can. The seer could ruin everything, but there's a world that works for her without Danielle. Like she comes into this being in a way better spot than Danielle was to start anyway, you know?
Okay. All right, let's talk about the round table. And we mentioned Brittany asked Gabby, why didn't you talk to anybody else? You just talked to the Bambis. And Danielle says, is it because you thought you just didn't need the numbers or because you thought you had the numbers? Because then Gabby flips it around like, oh, like you have the numbers here?
That is a great response from Gabby, especially physically pointing out, so 2 out of 6 here already? Yeah, I don't have numbers like that, Brittany. Is a great response. It kind of closes that case completely. And
Gabby makes the case that Danielle versus Carolyn, you made an amazing case. You had all the receipts, but I think it was traitor on traitor. And Dylan says, yeah, you destroyed her. Carolyn just wasn't convincing, but maybe you were both telling the truth.
And here lies 2 things, Rob. The problem is Boston Rob already did this early and is now out and clear as a traitor. So the only other comparison is what Rob did. And Bob the drag queen destroying Dylan. Dylan has seen firsthand how you can get wrecked at the round table. And unfortunately for them, every time someone's been quote unquote killing it at the round table, they've been a traitor. So that's not good. The other thing is, I love the argument from Gabby that, you know, you had all this evidence and you presented an amazing case. I'm wondering if you did so well because you were privy to it firsthand, like you knew it ahead of time. And we've talked about the whole murder argument, Rob, how you kind of had time to think that. You cooked that up because we're not thinking that way.
Right. So Danielle is now getting accused by Ivar. He thinks it's Danielle. And Danielle says, no, I'm a faithful, like that. I'm not a traitor. And she said, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. And, you know, I don't know if this is pseudoscience or what, but they say that liars, when they are trying to put an emphasis on how you have to believe them, that just how impassioned they were, a liar will avoid using a contraction. They don't say, you know, I didn't. The liar will say, I did not. And Danielle doesn't say, a traitor, I can't do that. She says, I cannot do that.
Interesting. This is a finding of yours, Rob?
It's not a finding of mine. It's something that I have read, and again, maybe it's TikTok pseudoscience. Not that I got that down. Yeah, I think that's an old one though.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of these like tips on like body language reading and stuff like that that I've seen and heard, but then I don't write them down or memorize. I forget them. So that could very well be the case. The other thing, Rob, to go back real quick, one thing that Ivar brings up that I thought was very interesting is, I don't remember who he was talking to, but he was like, yeah, you know, she was not shaky like she's been while presenting her case against Carolyn last night, which is, you know, we've talked about playing the same way the whole way through. That is true. Danielle showed what she's capable of very confidently to take Carolyn out. And I think that is a change in character that is now being looked at.
All right. Danielle thinks it could be girl next door. That would be a perfect traitor, right? And Gabby is like, oh, you know, I knew you were going to try to do this. You bring this up, but, you know, I knew I was going to get this because I'm 3 steps ahead. But Danielle's just saying, like, how can I be a traitor? I don't have the stomach to be a traitor.
The kills don't match.
I'm shaking.
Me.
I'm nervous.
This is tough. This was tough, Rob. This didn't look like it was going to work out. It looked like, okay, we're getting a tie at best at this point.
Yeah. Well, here comes Dolores, who says, you know what? I never saw a traitor in her, but Ivar. Bob, the drag queen, voted for you twice.
Sorry,
and
Bob
you flew
the
under the
Queen.
radar. And Dolores said she was going to vote for Ivar, and she was gone.
Yeah.
What about Ivar?
Yeah, I did love Ivar saying, you want to take the token Brit out. Yeah, that would be pointless. He was like,
Yes.
Yeah, the track record of British people making it on the Traitors, Rob, deep runs. We got what was his name? John Burkow last season. He made it
Sure.
decently far.
Sure.
And now here's Lord Ivar at the final
Yes.
6.
Yeah, I forgot about the Bob the drag queen, Lord Ivar rivalry. Do you think that it was because that Bob wanted to be the only royalty in the house?
It's like there's only room for one royalty here. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Only one monarch here.
But yeah,
Okay.
it's interesting because again, I think removing the Tom from the pool, it was always going to be a gamble of where does Dolores turn next? Does she look for guidance or does she just go where you're asking her to go?
And she ends up going in
went
an
where she
unpredictable direction, but we do have a pivot. Okay. All right. So Dolores says, I am going to vote for Ivar. Okay.
You know how tough this is, Rob? Because you now have to put votes on Ivar, and you've not been talking about Ivar as the suspect this whole
This
time.
is a live tribal. And this was, I thought, incredible and we've been hard on Brittany and Danielle. At least I have been in this episode. But I thought that this was masterful to be able to pivot in this live tribal situation where it's like, okay, there's 6 of us here. If Dolores is doing Ivar, like, you know, I don't know if it got cut from the episode. If maybe if there was like, wait, are you sure? You're definitely doing this, Dolores? You're definitely doing Ivar? Yes,
Sure.
I'm definitely doing. Like, okay. You know, I don't know if there was like any sort of confirmation, but just off of her saying it, I'm going to do it. Like for Brittany and Danielle to both jump on this, because if just Danielle does it, it's not going to do anything. Brittany has to do it too. And Danielle can't be like, hey, Brittany, you got it?
There's got to have been an understanding going into the roundtable that, hey, we're voting with Dolores no matter what. We're hoping Dylan is on board. The other 2 are not with us, right? And so once she says that, I think both of them recognize we cannot lean on Dylan. We do not know where that man's going. We could end up screwing the pooch and 3-2-1-ing ourselves out, Danielle out. We can't do that. So let's 3-3 it and then see where it goes from there.
Okay. Ivar votes for Danielle. But Dolores votes for Ivar. And Danielle votes for Ivar. Bob the drag queen wrote your name down twice. And you said, but it's just a game, everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
Danielle
fine.
does say, I'm not going to attack you, Gabby. I just know it's not Brittany. I know it's not Dolores. I know it's not Dylan. And, you know, Bob the Queen did write your name twice.
Bob the Queen
so was
did
that
it.
a hint?
Okay. Gabby, though, voted for Danielle. But Brittany voted for Ivar. And Dylan, he could tie it up or he could send Ivar home. He votes for Danielle. Tie vote.
Which, if you take a look at Dylan's face at this point, Rob, he looks like nervous. And to me, for a split second, I thought, oh my God, did they 3-2-1 Ivar out of the game? Did not happen because he did vote
No.
Danielle, but he looked so perplexed and nervous.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah, if Dylan would have put a vote on Gabby here, perfect.
Wow.
Amazing. Okay. So
Yeah.
I was feeling good. I was like, all right, we're getting Ivar out. Yeah. You know, in case anybody's confused, like I am 100% rooting for Lord Ivar to get voted out here.
No, because you want to talk to him on the exit. You're very excited. You can't wait.
No, I wanted this to work. And see like Ivar go. That's why I was so disappointed when we got to the cliffhanger. Like, okay, all right. Like I'm like, you know, trying to white knuckle my way through this. Like, come on, we can do this. Let's go get it to the tiebreaker at least.
Rob, Lord Ivar, if he survives this, pencil him into getting some money from the Traitors.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get one last chance. Ivar says, I can't lie. And you'll be going into the final with 2 traitors potentially.
Decent case.
Yep. Danielle begs Dylan to vote for him. She says she's begging for her life. And that's all she has to say. Again, that's like the classic. We talk about this all the time. Like when you end your statement as like and that's all I have to say about that, which is actually how Forrest Gump ended his speech at the National Mall, but that's a different story.
I think another big mistake is just, I mean, obviously Gabby's been the one that's been saying your name and pitching the case against you. I think you have to look like you're pleading to the whole table and not to one person. I think that is automatically discounting Gabby. And I think it looks more like you're putting on the guilt trip, which is kind of what we talked about last week with Carolyn, where there were like a couple moments where Carolyn would turn over to Dylan and only address Dylan, which was suspect.
Yeah, it feels a little like Big Brother, like Final Five. You know, Danielle was sitting there when Marcellus, of course, sat there and, okay, Jason cast the deciding vote to evict. He's like, you really like looking at one person of like, hey, here's what I need in this spot, as opposed to like, here's the evidence of like prosecuting. This man right here is a traitor. He's suspicious. Nobody knows what he's up to.
Rob, there's something to be said about this Dylan Efron charm and the impact it's had on the CBS players this season. Think of it. Boston Rob, love him some Dylan. Derek said his name is Dylan Efron. Okay, remember that. We got Brittany pleading with him.
He was hanging out with Boston Rob and Parvati and Joe Manganiello this week.
I saw that.
Yeah,
he's everywhere.
Maybe he's going to Dondi next.
That would be a good pick. I think that'd be a fun pick for him.
Yeah, I think that, not to go off on the Dondi tangent, but I think that Dondi, they should do that. Traitors was half and half, and they learned from that, and they should do the same thing for Dondi. I think Dondi should be all famous people.
I would not hate to see that, but I will say they've done a good job with their casting for the most part on Dondi as well. But low-key, after finding out that Dylan's like, showers are overrated, put him on Survivor. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Okay. Look, they're Survivor 49. Could be Dylan Efron. All right.
He's a fan. Yeah.
And just one other, Jeff has talked about, even on the On Fire podcast today, he's like, hey, Survivor casting is so good. All these other shows that they just wait for us to find good people and then they steal them and they put them on other shows. And that's fine. That's their strategy. What an FU it would be for the Traitors if Survivor stole Dylan Efron from the Traitors and put him on Survivor 49.
The Uno reverse would be great. That's
Jeff,
Survivor getting the lick back.
You could poon the Traitors. Payback, baby.
Yeah, revenge is a dish best served.
Do people still say that? You just got pooned?
Is it not pwned? I think you're saying something different.
No, I don't know. There's like PWNED.
That's pwned.
Yeah. Pwned?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think Dylan Efron's gotten pooned before.
No, Rob, look it up. You're not saying what you think you're saying.
You sure?
It's pwned. It's pwned.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm
it's very sexual what you're saying. Let me put it that way.
Well, look, if it's if the shoe fits, okay? All right. And then Pooya, all right, let's go to the tie. Although Dolores, with her big eyes, looks at Danielle. You called out this moment earlier in the episode. What do you think this means? Do you think that this was, you thought that maybe this was like a missed connection, a cross signal between what Brittany interpreted what Dolores was doing?
Yeah, if I'm devil's advocating it, this is where Brittany talks about, because Brittany calls out a moment and then they show us that moment play out exactly how Brittany's saying, right? The nod, the look away. And I've seen stuff like this before where like at the table, you see a read and then you tell us what that read is. The thing that I'm thinking here is, does Brittany truly think that Dolores changed her tune on Danielle after being so stuck with Danielle the whole time to not vote Ivar again? Remember, she's the one who presented the Ivar vote. Why would she spearhead a vote and then back out of it? Especially when the results is keeping an Ivar who will probably now not trust Dolores. Like, I think Brittany should realize that that's not the case. But if I'm Brittany, I just, again, you got to write it out with this vote. and then be like, I was
Brittany
so
is just
snowed.
afraid I don't want to be the only person who voted with Danielle.
Ship has sailed.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that if Danielle's leaving, there's a decent chance they're going to look at you always, no matter what. Whether you now vote her out or not, they're going to look at you.
How bad is this for Brittany if she voted for Danielle?
I think that they might look at her for sure.
Yes.
But
what also, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of bad reality TV show moves?
I'm like in between a 4 and a 6. Like I truly don't see it as detrimental for Brittany, the individual player. I still think she has some decent outs here. Like I've said, the Dolores Ivar dissension, the Gabby Dylan suspicion that Dylan can't shake off. These are good for her. Combine that with the fact that if Brittany is truly in second place for the Seer and Danielle goes and Brittany gets it, if she plays her cards right on that, I think she's got some moves left to play here. Because I think, and this we can go back now, Rob, when you mentioned about the faithful, what should a faithful do? There's 2 ideas with the Seer that we heard in this episode. One was from Dylan, who said, yeah, so if I get the Seer, I can find another faithful and then guarantee myself an endgame spot, which is true. If you get yourself a Seer and you see a faithful, you know you're both faithfuls, you can ride that out. That's good. A+. Because now all you need to do is survive to the final, to the 4, and then just the 2 of you can make it there. I think the other thing was what we saw Dolores say to Danielle, which was, if I get this here, I just find a traitor and vote them out, right? That's what I should do. That is a mistake. I think if you seek out a traitor and you then bring it up to the group of like, okay, I looked up Brittany, she's a traitor. All Brittany's going to do is say, no, she's a traitor. She's lying to you. And then they vote both of you out and they're safe. So I think if Brittany wins and picks Dylan, who already is thinking of this mentality of a faithful is a good spot to, if I find a faithful, that's great. And Brittany plays that card right, that's great for her. She can then keep him and then figure out where they go from there.
Great comeback story. Okay. All right. And so Dylan voted again for Danielle. Dolores voted for Ivar. Gabby voted for Danielle. And Brittany cliffhanger. And I wrote in my notes, BS.
Yeah. Brittany looked shocked when Dolores flips her vote. And like I said, we can interpret this 2 ways. Shocked that, oh my God, it's a tie again. Or shocked that, oh my God, I just voted out Danielle. Who knows?
I think Danielle would have every right to say, Brittany, you're a sellout, bro.
I think your point is great, Robin, that if this was truly a tie again, why would we not end it on
I'm just
Alan
worried that
declaring a chance?
And you know, like we're breaking down the game, but just in terms of like what the choices are. If we're headed towards a jam-packed finale, let's vote out Ivar here. Danielle is about to go get the seer power. We're going to have all that to get to. We're going to have like a lot to break down in terms of like how are Danielle and Brittany going to navigate this very complicated end game and vote out these people with 2 traitors in the final 5. It feels like a lot of fireworks that we would have to get through in the final episode, plus the seer power final mission, plus a finale. But if the timeline ends up being one where, okay, Danielle's about to go home, and then, okay, the seer power is about to go in a direction that's going to help prosecute Brittany, and we're headed towards some form of a faithful win, whether it's a 4-person chop or a 3-person chop of the pot, could be a little bit of we'd be blessed to get some sort of ending like we got with CT and Trishelle taking out MJ at the end. That would be the best kind of moment that we could hope for.
Yeah, it's weird because I didn't anticipate the cliffhanger to happen because I was not paying attention to the runtime. And then when I saw the episode end, I was baffled. So I'm like, how did they extend this episode as long as they did? And also, to your point, what is going to happen in how much speed? Because we still, to your point, regardless of who goes or if it's a coin toss, someone still has to exit, reveal their role. Then the seer has to find go get the CE, see what their role is. Then breakfast, then mission, then roundtable. Then we go to the fire of truth. So there's so much to shove into 1 hour, which then to me is like, then why not just give us the conclusion here of what happened here so you have enough time to say the rest of the story? I don't know, because I don't think they're going to want to yada yada their seer power, which is brand new. I feel like historically they never yada yada the mission. So where are we losing time in the finale? And I don't think it's been advertised as a longer finale, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've heard too much about it. And actually, they're recording the finale on as we are doing the podcast today.
Reunion,
so the reunion is happening today. So we'll find out more information during the week, and we'll keep you posted on all of that. But I would say we are going into next week, I would say personally, with low expectations, but that's the secret to happiness, Pooya.
100%. 100%. And I, you know,
I would love to be wrong about this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the sentiments, you know, everyone's echoing different ones. For me personally, where I stand is, and I've mentioned this, if a traitor win happens, I'm happy, whether it's both or one. If it's a faithful win that includes Dylan or Gabby, I'm happy. If it's a faithful win that's only Ivar and Dolores, that's when I come in and say, great season, yikes on the ending.
Yeah.
But I don't see that ending happening now.
You know, I could see it already. There'll be some announcement from Peacock coming out this week. You will not be disappointed with the Traitors finale.
Boom, boom, boom. We'll see.
All right. Anything else about episode 10 of Traitors, as we are 1 week away?
Yeah, you know what's funny? Coming into the recap, I kind of felt like a bit of a mid-ep, but getting to talk about it and break it down with you, it was a lot of fun. It was a good episode. And listen, all eyes on the finale, even if the finale is a letdown, which I don't think it will be, we have a reunion shoved right next to it, most likely. So a back-to-back finale reunion could be fun. I will say, I'm going to keep my expectations low on the reunion, though, because I've come in higher expectation and I've been disappointed in the past.
Was not so great, but we'll see. And we should probably maybe get some leaks about that. But again, who knows what you can trust. All right. We will have a Traitors feedback show that we're working on during the week. robisawebsite.com/Traitors feedback for that. In terms of everything else that's going on here in RHAP, it's a very busy time. And of course, that's because Survivor is back. Wednesday night kicked off Survivor 48, and so did all of our coverage as we brought you the Survivor know-it-alls, exit interviews, and all of the Survivor coverage you know and love from RHAP. You can hear it all when you go to weknowsurvivor.com, or if you're not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and get all of our podcasts that you can watch right here on the RHAP YouTube channel. Then Deal or No Deal Island is cruising along. Maybe next season, Dylan Efron will be there. But in the meantime, we'll see how it all plays out the rest of the way. Then also the Pooya and Liana Lounge.
Yes.
What happened to Liana?
Back. You'll find out. This is not generated fake. This is authentically my lovely wife doing weird things. This was a very fun episode of The Pal. We got into all our journey, our trip that we just did.
Yeah, what happened? She's like a marionette. She looks like she's in the It's Gonna Be Me video.
I think it's possible. I think she would do great there. But yeah, we talked about our trip. We talked about a bunch of other stuff, and it was a very fun listen. So check it out.
Okay, check that out. Then also, RHAP a live show is coming to Boston. Sam Moore says very limited tickets are available. I believe that's at robiswebsite.com/Boston, as you can comb through a very few limited tickets that are left for our event. And as Tony once said, the event's going to be a sellout, bro. I saw Tony on Saturday.
And how was he?
He was in rare form. It was wonderful. I actually saw a couple of Traitors. I saw Tony. I saw Sari on Saturday. I was at the Survivor 48 screening. I saw Sandra also. So some big Traitors people were in the audience. But Tony was just so funny. He was giving his account of what he saw in the turret, what it was like to play with all those people. It was just like vintage Tony. I loved it so much.
I love to hear that. I will say also, book these. If you want to talk to me at the live event about my experience having a chicken parm for the first time, that will be happening at this event. So come through.
All right. Then The White Lotus is cruising along, and it's been a very fun season so far. Josh Wigler and I have recapped episode 1 and 2 on WeKnowScriptedTV.com. We'll be back with our episode 3 recap of The White Lotus. And, of course, on Patreon. Survivor is better when you have a tribe, and The Traitors isn't too bad either. Check out everything we have going on over in our Patreon, where you can join the RHAP community. I'll be live on Friday afternoon taking Survivor questions and calls from our audience, plus all of our patron content and access to our different Facebook groups and Discord and so much more over at robhasawebsite.com/patron. All right. So, Pooya, what else is coming up for you?
Well, I will be talking 90 Day Fiancé this week with me just coming back from travel. It got pushed back a little bit, but I will be recording that will be available for you to consume and enjoy this weekend as myself and Annabelle, another person I've recruited to the 90 Day podcast, to talk about episode 2 of this season. So far, so good. A lot of mess, good times. So if you check that out and catch me talking Australian Survivor once a week. I call it a Pooya Tuesdays, but listen, Pooya Fridays will always be there. A Tuesday is a bonus, and you can see what I've cooked up, talking about what seems to be the middle episode of the cycle every week with myself and my acquaintance, Shannon Gus. A lot of fun time there.
Yeah. All right. We love to hear what you have to say for the most part in the comments here on YouTube. Okay. So please keep it classy and let us know what you think about the podcast and the episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.